Good evening and welcome to ATV. I'm Suad Asfour. My special guest tonight is Wafa Shami. Wafa was born and raised in Ramallah, Palestine. She moved to United States at age 29 to pursue higher education and graduated with a master's degree in international studies from North Carolina State University. Since moving to U.S., Wafa has maintained her engagement in Middle Eastern issues as a volunteer. She was inspired to write this children's story after her son was born, who is currently 5 years old. In addition to being busy raising her son, Wafa has a passion for cooking and has started a food blog in which she is sharing her family's recipe. Wafa currently lives in California. Recently joined the Arab American Culture Center as a board member. Welcome aboard and welcome to the show, Wafa.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. We've been looking forward to have you on the show. I would like to start asking you by telling us, how is it like to be raised in Palestine, in Ramallah?
Well, as you know, during the time I grew up and as a child, we were under occupation. Ramallah and the West Bank was under occupation. Yes. So there comes challenges with that, and Definitely. There were moments of fearful incidents that took place, such as curfews and shooting and things like that. But I still consider myself lucky. I grew up with a big family, big loving family. I'm a child of 5 children, and my parents both were loving and always had the message of peace and humanity, respect for all, love to all, and always prayed for a peaceful solution. So also I think I grew up in a neighborhood that we were all like one community, one big family, and I cherish those moments where I had close friends within the same neighborhood that I still actually close to. We had this bond growing up, and probably the occupation and the tragedies we face bring people closer together.
Also in school, you probably have stronger community
Absolutely.
And bonds together
Absolutely.
With your friends and not just neighbors and family. So you left Palestine and you came to United States to pursue higher education. Can you tell me a little bit about the transition and what made you do that and how you end up in the Bay Area?
Yeah, it's long path. I worked right after the graduation. I worked with the United Nations or an admin job for about 8 years. And during this time, I always had a passion and interest to get a college degree. So I continued pursuing my undergrad while working with the United Nations. And then I felt after graduation with my undergrad from Ramallah, I felt like I would really am interested in pursuing higher education. At the time, there were no degrees or master degrees program offered at Birzeit University, which is the main university in the area. So the only option was to leave the country and study abroad. So there was challenges with that because both of my parents did not agree on the idea, you know, letting their young daughter move by herself and live by herself in the U.S. Wow. It wasn't an easy decision for them to make, but I was kind of determined, knowing the person who I am. When I set my mind on something, I was determined to go, and I convinced my parents, and I had my aunt, who's my mother's sister, lived in North Carolina, and I think she sort of put them at ease. That, you know, they finally approved my transition into the U.S. and
because you have an aunt, so you can come and live with her.
I didn't stay with her because, you know, university wasn't close by. It was an hour and a half from where she lived, but at least she was in the area.
That's lucky,
you know,
to have
for
some
emergencies
family.
And stuff.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
So you are a very strong woman. So you mentioned that you worked for United Nations or you helped out with some work, but can you tell me more about what kind of jobs you went through since your graduation?
From my master's?
Yes.
Yes, you know, I worked with the UN, and my passion was always to help people, especially refugees. The situation that puts women and children after a political situation is close to my heart, because both my parents became refugees after 1948, and I remember the stories that both of my parents shared about losing homes and losing their livelihood and have to flood and settle and start new life. So that was close to my heart, and I wanted to do something to help others. I wanted to continue working with the UN, although after graduation my career took a different path, and I continued to work. I worked with the American Red Cross, and I worked with Habitat for Humanity. They're both big organizations in the US that serves the community. I enjoyed working for both, but at the same time, my passion was not into it. I kind of felt like I would really like to do something that is related to Palestine and Israel justice on the ground. So I had the opportunity to run a Middle East Peace Education program with the Quakers, American Friends Service Committee. And
amazing.
I was leading the program for about 4 years in the Los Angeles area.
Great. So what made you go into international studies?
As I said, again, it's you know, you're born in Palestine, you're born with the situation, you're born with the political situation that comes with it. So international studies kind of was the major that probably would allow me to continue that path if I wanted to work with a refugee program. So that's why, and I'm kind of like, I always interested to learn about other people's politics, about other countries. So international studies was a great fit at the time, and it fulfilled my ambitions on learning more about the world and the world politics.
And I also understand that you were a teacher. Did you do any activism, active in peace and justice workshops and teaching?
Yes, the program you're referring to is the teacher workshop program that I started with the AFSC. The program started with the American Friends when I was working there, and in Los Angeles area, there's the United Teachers Los Angeles, which is part of the district. They offer what they called a salary point program. In order for the teacher to advance their salary, they have to take classes to improve their effectiveness as well. So it's a motivation for the teachers to improve their skills and to add to their salary. So they offer these different parts of the salary program, and what the program consists is it meets the multicultural point that the UTLA offers, and we were setting workshops that teach about the Arab word and about Islam and all kinds of things about the Arab world, from culture, history, music, even food. So it's a 16-hour program. We did it in 2 Saturdays. The program started in 2005. It still goes on, actually, and most of the people who work there are volunteers. Unfortunately, I moved out of the area, so I'm not involved as I was, but the program has been successful for 15 years, and the key point about it is the teacher learn, and they also have to apply what they learned in their classroom with their students in order to get those points. So we're not only teaching the teachers, we're also passing the information for the kids. And I think the main critical point about this program is we aim to teach tolerance and understanding, especially after September 11. People, you know, the misconception and the Arab word is a taboo, and Islam and Muslims, and there are no Christians in the Arab word, and the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. So it's not all politics. Part of it are also about the culture, as I said, and the food and everything else related to the Middle East.
Wow, so you've been very, very, very busy. So you've done some work with the Red Cross and United Nations and all these things you mentioned about humanity of Wake County and United Nations Relief and Works Agency. I also know that you've been real estate. You've done some real estate work, have you? You sold some real estate?
I did
in
try
California?
to go into real estate.
How was that?
I mean, hats off to all the realtors who work out there. You know,
bit
people when they
different,
think
right?
of real estate, they think, oh, you're gonna just go and collect money. It's a very challenging and demanding job. I did try it during the times when market was very bad. I did try it for a few years, but because of moving from one place to the other, it was kind of difficult to maintain. And honestly, I don't think my heart and passion was there. So, but it was nice to try and get experience about different things in life until you settle. That will kind of shape you to what you will be.
The experience is worth it.
Absolutely.
What other certification you got?
Oh,
Skills.
other
You
than
have
the
so
real
many of them.
Well, I mean, I always have an interest to learn. I always have a passion to learn new things and to know. So I mean, there's certificates that I took on the job,
Especially
training,
leadership
and things like that. So like on the job trainings and stuff like that. So
it's really nice to know and have a woman with the leadership qualities like you do.
Thank you.
In our area.
Yeah, I think also living from where I am, where I grew up, with where I come from, I think you definitely have to be the community and the situation and shaped you to the person you are. So it's I mean, mainly Palestinians are born resilient. And I think part of my background kind of helped me to
it's because of what they've been through all these years. It's not easy.
Exactly.
What about volunteer work? I understand now you just joined the Arab Culture Center in San Jose and you are a board member. Yes. And you've done more volunteer work in the past. Can you tell me some of the volunteer works you have done in the past?
Well, I worked with the Red Cross, but I also maintained doing some volunteer work on the side after I moved away from the Red Cross, and they had these workshops to teach people about international issues and the International Red Cross, because it's a huge organization. The umbrella is the International Red Cross, but then comes the American Red Cross, but it is part of the international umbrella and international humanitarian law and things like that. So also I had an interest on teaching those classes. There was an International Visitor Council in LA. It's a branch that I also volunteer with them quite a bit. And also Habitat with the Humanity. I have an interest and passion to this organization. And I did do some volunteer work with them partially.
That's just, you amaze me.
Thank you.
You're my kind of woman. What about speaking? I know also that you've done some speaking in public.
Well, part of my job with the American Friends is to represent the organization. So,
and like conferences and all that?
Yes, conferences, doing a lot of reach out and presentations.
Good.
I used to do a lot of presentations, speaking about the issues, and mainly we had this program, which is the Fair Trade Olive Oil, where we bring olive oil from Palestine, fair trade, to support the farmers. Wow. Because it's hard for the farmers to export their olive oil. So part of the program was to bring olive oil, and it was a way for me to have access to, you know, church groups, universities, schools, and to bring the olive oil and give the people the opportunity to taste it. And it was an opportunity to talk about the situation. So, because some people don't want to hear the politics out of it, but when you walk in with your olive oil and talking a little bit about, you know, the
humanity issues.
Exactly.
That's good. So you've done your international studies from North Carolina, and you got your master's degree from there. But you did have the bachelor degree in art in English.
Yes.
Education from Jerusalem.
Jerusalem Open University.
Okay, and look at you, you speak English better than everybody here, and you came here old, I mean, not young.
Yes.
Under teenager. So how many languages do you speak?
Well, fluently Arabic, and my native is Arabic, and I speak English. I always try to work on my French, but it's not as
How about
as
some
I would.
Hebrew?
I
Do you
did
understand
take.
any?
I had an interest of taking Hebrew classes because I always wanted to understand what the Hebrew channel talks about the situation with us, and kind of had interest to understand a
That's
bit of
great.
Hebrew. So I took some Hebrew classes.
You
as
never
well.
stop. You
So
keep going. That's great. But I see this book now. We need to talk about your new published. You just published the Easter in Ramallah book. Can you tell us a little bit about this book and what motivates you to write it? What inspires you?
So I'm not an author by nature, but kind of this book, I had the inspiration to write this book when my son was born, and when he was about a year and a half years old, to take him to the library, and he, bring all these children's story books, and then I'm looking through the story books, and I felt like the urge that I can probably write something to have my son the opportunity to learn a little bit about my childhood. He's going to grow up here. He's 5 years old now, and he's not going to have that experience. And I thought it'll be interesting for him to learn a bit about what it's like to grow up in Palestine. And also, when my friends read the story, they thought, this is a great opportunity for other children as well in the U.S. to learn more about Palestinian kids, and to connect and relate, because if you read the story, you can tell, kids are kids anywhere, and little girl of me here talking about my own experience during Easter time, which is my favorite holiday.
This is it. We are in April.
Yeah, exactly, and spring. So Easter, is coming, and I'm so grateful that the book has been receiving a lot of great feedback and great reviews.
This is amazing. Yeah, we got your name and number on the screen. I'm sure somebody.
So I'm working on my second book as well.
So tell us, what's the next book going to be all about?
It's also about my childhood memories, and I'm just going to leave it a surprise. So I'm hoping it'll be published by the end of August. The book is almost ready. It's just the illustrator, and the illustrator also, by the way, she's Palestinian. We never met. We communicated through Messenger and phone, and she's amazing. And I really wanted somebody who grew up with the same area as I did. So she partnered with me in this book, and she's partnering again with the next book. So
that's good. I wish you the best of luck on that. That's excellent. Keep going. Don't stop. So now we need to talk about your blog. I understand you launched food blog about the cooking, Arabian cooking, Palestinian cooking. Tell me about the inspiration behind that.
Okay, so the blog name is PalestineInADish.com, and people can find me also on Instagram and Facebook, Palestine in a Dish. I always had an interest to cook. So I grew up in a family of 5 children, and my mom was, in my eyes and in my taste, she's the best cook ever, and she always enjoyed cooking at home, but she would never let us touch anything. So she never sat us down and taught us how to cook, and I think by just watching my mother,
by nature, just by
watching my mother growing up doing things, you kind of think you don't know how to cook, but once you start cooking, so you feel like, oh yeah, I know how to do this, I know how to do that. So when I moved to the US, I missed my mother's home cooking after a while, from eating out and things like that. So I started calling my mother and trying to cook some of the favorite dishes, and she would give me the exact recipes by the phone. And then, later on, after graduation, you have time and you make friends and you invite friends over and things like that. So most of everybody started giving me great feedback about my cooking and the food I make. And all my friends would say, oh, you need to open a restaurant. You should open a restaurant. So it wasn't my interest and passion to open a restaurant, honestly. But then I thought, a food blog can be a good idea. So that's how the food blog started. I did a lot of research because, you know.
So you take all the photos and you do all the
Yes,
work yourself?
yes. Early on, I did everything by myself. I had a nephew back home, bless his heart. He helped me with the technical setup a bit to launch it. But I take all the photos and I developed actually my passion in food styling and food photography. So I did learn a lot watching YouTube online and seeing other food bloggers and, you know, just self-teaching.
We're going to bring you back on the show to cook something for us.
Yes, that'll be
feed
great.
all the crew here.
Yeah, so again, the feedback I get regarding my photos and the pictures and the recipes.
Well, Wafa, it's so good to hear all this, and you seem like you've been doing good. You're doing great, you know. I wish you the best to keep going. But there must be some complication that every Middle Eastern woman will go through. What kind of complication you went through the transition coming from Palestine, living in the United States, going through many different cities and different jobs and all that stuff? What kind of complication you been through?
There are always challenges, I think. I mean, I can't remember one incident right now, but there's always challenges. Finding a job is a challenge. You know, making yourself in the community. Like in North Carolina, I lived for about 7 years, and everybody was nice and friendly. If you go to the South, everybody is nice and friendly, but you don't feel like they don't make you one of them. You always feel like you don't fit in, you're an outsider. Although people are nice and everything in your face, but there's something you feel is missing. And that whole thing completely changed when I moved to LA. Like from day one, when I walked into American Friends office, I felt I'm one of them.
You're home.
I'm home.
So
I mean, everybody made me feel
in
like
California.
In California, I think probably California is probably highly diverse. People are maybe different than North Carolina or other states. I'm not sure, but that's how I felt. I mean, even LA, I live in Bay Area right now, but LA feels still feels it's my second home. It's very close to my heart.
Yeah.
And I have a big community there and a lot of friends.
Great, great. Any role models in your life? Somebody you look up to?
Oh, there's so many. I think probably Mother Teresa.
Wow.
And
that's a beautiful answer.
Yeah, I think the peaceful
great.
message that she used to speak out, and her words are still very effective, and they speak to the heart. So
yeah, that's great. So now you said your son is 5 years old, and you're raising him on your own in this country. What's the difference raising a family here versus Palestine? What are some of the challenges that Middle Eastern women might face raising kids here?
I think there's a lot of challenges because you try to raise your kid. I mean, his dad is still here with him, and he's 50% with his dad, so his dad is very much in his life. So yeah, it's as a single mother, and coming from a different culture, I would like my son to grew up knowing a bit about my background and my culture. And also, it's very important, I feel, because we live in the US and it's highly diverse, and I think it's a blessing that you meet people from all sort of cultures, all sort of backgrounds, something that is not, is very unique to the US. So I feel I would like my son to be very tolerant, to be kind to people. I try hard to set an example for him to be a better person, because when you're a mother and you have a child, it's a big responsibility. You always try to be the best you can to set an example. And I always try to, as 5 years old, but I always make it clear, you have to be kind to people. If you want people to be kind to you, you have to be kind and nice with everybody. So just bringing up to this word that can be sometimes difficult and cruel. I make sure that he will be a person who's good to himself and good to others.
Wow, I think he's a lucky child to have you.
Thank you.
And you are doing just amazing job as a mom. Final advice you would like to advise all the ladies in the Bay Area?
Not necessarily. I think a lot of ladies are doing very well in the Bay Area, but not necessarily. I mean, advice probably in general that I don't think. From my own experience, I don't think anything is impossible in life. I think once you have a passion and you believe in yourself and you set your mind on something, don't give up. Life takes you through many different routes, and it has its ups, it has its downs. If you go down, be sure that things are going to work out at the end. So I'm saying this from word of wisdom, from experience, not just saying it.
No, not just reading books and all that, but you are a very strong woman, and you're just a great role model for all of us.
Thank you.
And I hope many ladies will watch us tonight and listen to what you said, because you are somebody we can be proud of.
Thank you.
I want to thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome, and keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Don't give up. Thank you for watching us, and see you again next week. Good night.